Hello and a very warm welcome to today's session brought to you by Team Testbook Super Coaching. I hope all of you are doing really well. देरी नहीं करते हुए फटाफट से आज के सेशन को स्टार्ट करते हैं। आज हम लोग आपके क्रैश कोर्स के जो ओवरव्यू कॉन्सेप्ट्स हम लोग कर रहे थे नॉवेल से रिलेटेड। कल हम लोगों ने वेरियस कैटेगरीज ऑफ नॉवेल्स को देखा था। वी हैड सीन नॉवेल्स ऑफ इंसिडेंट, नॉवेल्स ऑफ कैरेक्टर्स, novels that were social in nature, utopian, dystopian writings altogether. और आज हम लोग रीजन वाइज कैटेगरी को एक बार थोड़ा सा देखेंगे कि रीजन वाइज जैसे फॉर इंस्टेंस आपका अफ्रीकन राइटिंग्स, आपके ऑस्ट्रेलियन नॉवेल्स, ये सारी कैटेगरीज को हम अच्छी तरह से रिव्यू करेंगे। वी आर गोइंग टू बी लुकिंग एट ऑल ऑफ दीज कैटेगरीज। तो देरी नहीं करते हुए फटाफट से आज के सेशन को स्टार्ट करते हैं। आज हमारी प्रायोरिटी क्या होगी, हम कुछ एग्जाम्पल्स ऑफ इंपॉर्टेंट अफ्रीकन नॉवेल्स को देखेंगे। सो इसके नोट्स आप अच्छी तरीके से बना लीजिएगा। गुड इवनिंग कस्तूरी, देवश्री, सुजीत, देवाश्री, सिमर, सोनाली, जामर, शिल्पा, रानी, डायना, सूरज, गुड इवनिंग एवरीवन। तो लेट अस वेरी क्विकली गेट स्टार्टेड। तो हम लोगों का आज का मेन फोकस रहेगा टू क्विकली हैव अ बर्ड्स आई व्यू, टू क्विकली हैव अ क्विक डिस्कशन ऑन योर अफ्रीकन राइटिंग्स, अफ्रीकन नॉवेल्स को हम अच्छी तरह से एक बार देखेंगे। गुड इवनिंग सूरज, रश्मि। सो लेट अस वेरी क्विकली गेट स्टार्टेड। तो आज हम रीजन वाइज सेकेंड पार्ट में हम रीजन वाइज नॉवेल्स को देखेंगे and if time permits we are going to be looking at all the important novels after 1990 या फिर उसको हम लोग कल भी कंटिन्यू करेंगे, लेकिन प्राइमरी फोकस विल बी ऑन अफ्रीकन राइटिंग्स। नाउ कैन यू गिव मी a few examples of African novels जो आपके इंपॉर्टेंट अफ्रीकन नॉवेल्स हैं, जो आपके इंपॉर्टेंट अफ्रीकन राइटिंग्स हैं, अफ्रीकन नॉवेल्स हैं, उनमें कौन कौन से राइटर्स आ जाते हैं। सबसे पहला इंपॉर्टेंट वर्क आ रहा है विमेन राइटर के द्वारा, ऑलिव स्क्रीनर के द्वारा। शी इज अ साउथ अफ्रीकन राइटर एंड व्हाट आर यू एबल टू सी, व्हाट आर वी एबल टू सी, व्हाट इज रियली हैपनिंग नाउ व्हेन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट ऑलिव स्क्रीनर। ठीक है, ऑलिव स्क्रीनर इज द पर्सन हु इज कमिंग इन एंड राइटिंग अ स्टोरी ऑफ एन अफ्रीकन फार्म। तो ये जो द स्टोरी ऑफ एन अफ्रीकन फार्म है, the story of an African farm, the story of an African farm, the story of an African farm by ऑलिव स्क्रीनर। ये क्या हो जाता है, दिस बिकम्स एन एग्जाम्पल ऑफ एन इम्पोर्टेंट राइटिंग। ये आपको चेंजिंग पैटर्न्स ऑफ वुमेन के बारे में बताता है। इंस्पायर्ड बाय रैल्फ वाल्डो एमर्सन, यू गॉट एम्स कैरेक्टर, यू गॉट यू गॉट एमर्सन्स कैरेक्टर दैट इज कमिंग इन, और साथ में वाल्डो का भी है, एम का कैरेक्टर है, लिंडल का कैरेक्टर है। एंड ऑल ऑफ देम आर लिविंग इन अ फार्म इन द कारो रीजन। कौन से रीजन में ये फार्म है? दिस फार्म is in the Karo region altogether. It is set during the First Boer War also. तो याद है कल हम लोगों ने जो कहा था हिस्टोरिकल नॉवेल्स, ऑलिव स्क्रीनर का ये जो वर्क है, इट इज ट्राइंग टू टेल यू अबाउट सोशियोलॉजिकल कंसर्न्स, पॉलिटिकल कंसर्न्स, इंपॉर्टेंट आइडियाज अच्छी तरीके से ये आपको बताता है ऑल टुगेदर। बाय द वे एक क्वेश्चन आता है, दिस वर्क इज ऑल्सो एक्चुअली डीलिंग विद ट्रांसवेस्टिज्म। What is transvestism? What is transvestism? This is cross-dressing. It is associated androgyny. This is also associated with queer studies. Queer studies से भी associated है. So this work was actually considered to be very radical because it was talking about pregnancy out of wedlock. It was very radical for its time altogether. बहुत ही ज़्यादा radical consider किया जाता था. That is what you were able to look at. Now, another important example of a good important African novel is Cry the Beloved Country by Alan Paton. So एक और जो आपका एग्जाम्पल आ जाता है वो कौन सा है? एलन स्टुअर्ट पेटॉन का एग्जाम्पल है। और एलन स्टुअर्ट पेटॉन, what is the work that Alan Paton is writing? He's writing Cry the Beloved Country. Now, what is so special about Cry the Beloved Country? Cry the Beloved Country का क्या स्पेशलिटी है? What is so special about Cry the Beloved Country? Why is Cry the Beloved Country so important? It's dealing with the village of Lord Shini. क्यों important है? Yeah, that's right. Why is it important? Why Cry the Beloved Country is important? Why Cry the Beloved Country is important? Yes, good, Wilfran. Cry the Beloved Country आपका क्यों important है? By Alan Paton. This is telling you the story of Stephen Kumalo. Stephen Kumalo is the priest that you are able to see, right? So यहाँ पर क्या होता है? You are having the character of Stephen Kumalo. Stephen Kumalo, the priest character, is coming in, right? And he's getting the news of his sister Gertrude. ठीक है? Gertrude is predominantly, what are you able to see? He's going to find him him to Johannesburg, his son Gertrude, altogether how there is this entire black person trying to search the true happenings of what has happened altogether. तो ये चीज आपको अच्छी तरीके से एक तरह से पता चलती है. So you'll have to keep that in mind. Yes, racial injustices, that is what you're able to see. So please remember, a lot of these writers like Alan Payton और Olive Screener, ये सब लोग contribute कर रहे हैं. Of course, African novels में South African writer Gaudimer का novel mention is extremely important. Why is Nadine Gaudimer important? Why do we have Nadine Gaudimer? What is the importance of Nadine Gaudimer? Nadine Gaudimer is trying to tell you about apartheid. Bolshoinka ke baad, she is also another important African to get the Nobel Prize altogether. July's people, conservationists, when you're talking about My Son's Story, these are very important works that are coming. So conservationists के लिए इनको Booker Prize भी मिल रहा है. Right, so for the conservationist, what are we able to see? For the conservationist, we are able to see that the issue is also appreciated. Burger's daughters coming, July's people के ऊपर इतने सारे questions आजकल आने लग गए हैं. And she is actually one of the most banned writers. अगर किसी को consider किया जाता है, so that is Nadine Gaudimer. Nadine Gaudimer is actually getting that particular tag altogether. तो ये चीज आपको थोड़ा सा ध्यान में रखना पड़ेगा, that how we are able to see that writers like Gaudimer are coming. My Son's Story, Burger's Daughter, ये सारे के सारे works जो आ रहे हैं conservationist के लिए, तो of course इनको Booker Prize भी मिला हुआ है. So therefore that becomes important. She is a recipient of the Nobel Prize for telling about the apartheid regime. और apartheid regime को ठीक तरह से बताते हैं white perspective. Whites were not considered to be, they were not accepted in either ways. So that also you come to know about it. Now, no session on African discussion or African novels is ever complete without the mentioning of Chinua Achebe, as most of you were also putting it in the comment section. ठीक है, Chinua Achebe, जैसा कि बोला जाता है, his characters are literally found on the streets of South Africa, Nigerian writer altogether who's coming in. He's received the International Man Booker Prize. Things Fall Apart भी इनका एक बहुत ही important work है. Title taken from William Butler Yeats. So Things Fall Apart, what is it trying to tell you? Congo Igbo society के बारे में बता रहे हैं. Congo की जो life है Imofia के अंदर. So Imofia, Congo, Igbo society, that is what you're able to see. How Ikimifuma is getting killed. Isaac Novi, the son of Congo, is not at all happy and he wants his Christian education altogether. Izinema is the character also who's there. So things falling apart, the traditional versus the modern values that you're able to see. Arrival of Christianity and its impact that you're able to see on the lives of people. ये भी आपको अच्छी तरह से पता चलता है. That is another thing. No Longer at Ease is another important work, right? No longer at ease, no longer at ease. This is another important work that you are able to see. No Longer at Ease. Journey of Maggie, right? Journey of the Maggie में आपका ले रखा है. किसकी स्टोरी बता रहा है? ओबी ओकोंगो की. No Longer at Ease. What are you able to see? You are able to look at. You are able to see. What are you predominantly able to look at? You are predominantly able to look at that how this particular work, right? How this particular work is trying to literally tell you the story of Obu Okonko leaving his village for British education and a job in, colonial Nigeria altogether. And he's not able to actually adjust with the Western lifestyle and what he sees in reality. So East-West encounter to एक बहुत ही important theme है. Arrow of God is another important work that Chinua Achebe is actually writing. Man of People is also a word coming from Chinua Achebe's writings. I saw some people, I think Wilfran had written Anthills of Savannah. That is also true. But आपका सबसे पहला नोबेल जिस African writer को मिलता है, that is none other than Bolshoinka. Even though known for his plays like Lion and the Jewel, you are able to see that a lot of other works that he's writing are coming in, but he's also an important African writer. Nigerian writers, Kenyan writers, South African writers, Botswanian writers, आपके a lot of these writers, जैसे कल भी हम लोग जब Caribbean literature कर रहे थे, remember we were talking about writers from Barbados, we were talking about writers from Guyana, we were talking about writers Trinidad and Tobago. तो आपको पता होना चाहिए कि आपके Caribbean writers कौन से हैं, African writers कौन से हैं, what is the major difference that you are predominantly able to see between them. ये सारी चीजें ऑफ कोर्स आपको याद रखनी है ना। वोल श्वेंका ने इंटरप्रेटर्स करके नॉवल लिखी है। इंटरप्रेटर्स इज अ नॉवल दैट इज रिटन बाय वोल श्वेंका एंड ही इज आल्सो रिटन अ पोएम कॉल्ड टेलीफोन कॉन्वर्सेशन। सो वोल श्वेंका द प्ले राइट जो काफी सारे आपके कॉन्गीज हार्वेस्ट या फिर लायन एंड द ज्वेल ये प्लेस लिख रहे हैं, the novel that he has written is called as the Interpreters. So Interpreters is the novel, Interpreters is the novel, and Telephone Conversation is basically the poem that Gold Shoinka is writing. ये इन्होंने पूरा का पूरा एक तरह से वर्क लिखा है। Now one African writer who actually talks about your psychological aspect, वो कौन सा writer है, ठीक है, वो कौन सा writer है that we are able to see, which is the writer that we are talking about, who is predominantly trying to deal with psychological themes altogether, which is a writer जो psychological themes से deal कर रहा है. You are having Cossey. So Louis Cossey is the person. Louis Cossey is the person that we are able to see. Mating Birds, Mandela's Ego, ये सारे के सारे वर्क्स आपके कोसी से आ रहे हैं. What are you able to look at? Mating Birds trying to tell you about how, okay, about how you are able to see, how you are able to look at that there is a black man being accused of starting a relationship with a white woman only by seeing her. So only by seeing her, that poor chap is actually getting accused that he started an entire relationship. So the unjust laws are basically being spoken about, right? I hope all of you know we are also having unjust also, yes, for your class. Just give me 1 second. You also have a master class right now wherein we'll be looking at questions related to New Zealand based writers. I hope all of you are going to be joining it as well. Let me just, yes. Right. So यहाँ पर आपको जो दो तीन चीजें डेफिनेटली ध्यान में रखनी है, that how Cossey is predominantly telling you about the psychological impact. Mating Birds tries to tell you also. The novel also received critical appreciation because बहुत ही beautifully ये बता रहा है underground people हो गया या Mandela's ego हो गया, right? You are also having Mandela's ego, right? Mandela's ego is also there. Mandela's ego is talking about how there is this man, that is Gumit, and this Gumit is a Casanova, but when Nelson Mandela is imprisoned, this particular man becomes impotent. So how Mandela is tied to the consciousness of everybody. So Gumit की story के अंदर you are able to see that Mandela का जो importance है, Nelson Mandela का जो importance है to achieve the target of Rainbow Nation, to demolish apartheid altogether. That is something that you are able to see that comes across over here. He's written multiple other works like Home and Exile, Lekin Mating Birds, Mandela's Ego. They are the most important works, some of the most important works that we are able to see that are coming from Louis Cossey. Also Bessie Head. Bessie Head is also an extremely important writer. Bessie Head, Botswana. So यहाँ पर what are we able to see? What kind of writing? When rain clouds gather, a question of power. These are very important works that are coming from the pen of Bessie Head. So when rain clouds gather, this is a work by Bessie Head. Telling you about, this man called Makhaya who runs away from his birthplace in South Africa. तो अगर आप South Africa से जा रहे थे तो आप basically अपना जो citizen permit है वो दे के जा रहे हैं, then you are not allowed to come in altogether, right? So that is what you are able to see. So you have to face a lot of problems if you're migrating to a different place, and that problem is actually being spoken about over here. A question of power bhi is another important work. That is another important work that Bessie Head talks about. So you will have to remember that a lot of these African writers who are coming in, like Armaha Mahaka, the beautiful ones are not yet born from Ghana. So how Ghanaian writer, Botswanian writer, even for that matter, when we talk about how a lot of these writers like Nuruddin Farah, who's writing, maps and how are the other works that are coming from Farah's account altogether. Maha का क्या contribution है? Maha का contribution is important for the beautiful ones are not yet born. The beautiful ones, the beautiful ones. The beautiful ones, the beautiful ones are not yet born, are not yet born. The beautiful ones are not yet born. This is a work that is coming from Armaha's pen altogether. The unnamed protagonist who's working at the railway station and refuses to take a bribe, and he's made to feel so bad by his wife. The wife makes him feel so terrible that why did you not take the bribe? क्योंकि अगर आपने bribe ले ली होती, we would have made sure that we were living a better condition altogether, right? So I want all of you to actually revisit क्योंकि a lot of these writers जैसे बुची एम शेटा के ऊपर भी आपके questions आते हैं. You get a lot of these questions that are associated with Buchi M. Sheta, right? Buchi M. Sheta's coming, Buchi M. Sheta's writing, second class citizen आपका हो गया, right? You are having works like the second class citizen, all right, the second class citizen हो गया या bright price हो गया. A lot of these, the bright price, they're trying to tell you about the condition of Nigerian women, slave girls, joys of motherhood. All of these are joys of motherhood से कितनी बार questions भी आया हुआ है. Joys of motherhood, second class citizen. All of these are trying to tell you about the problems that women are actually facing. Absolutely right, in the ditch as well. Or the Somalian writer Nuruddin Farah, who was actually educated at Punjab University. So when we are talking about the writer coming from Somalia, that is Nuruddin Farah, Nuruddin Farah's writings. कल हम लोग actually में first चीज first, like I told you, we will first be looking at the 10 most important novels that are coming from 1990s. Second, I will be taking a quick quiz on African writings, African novels. एक बार थोड़ा सा इसको please review करके आइएगा. And third, we are going to be doing the topic of the day. जो आपका topic of the day है, that is something that we'll be covering. I want all of you to join the master class right now. कल हम लोगों ने Trinidad based writers, Barbados से जो writers आ रहे हैं उनको देखा था. Today in the master class we will be looking at writers coming from New Zealand. So New Zealand से आपके जो writers आ रहे हैं, we will be covering all of those in today's master class right now at 10:30 p.m. So please quickly hurry up and join at 10:30 p.m. Tomorrow you also have a class at 3 p.m. wherein we are going to be discussing both paper 1. So Tulika ma'am is going to be there with me. Okay, you will be having a class with Tulika ma'am. Tulika ma'am would be there. हम लोग पेपर 1 को डिस्कस करेंगे बिकॉज ये बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट डाउट आप लोगों का रहता है कि पेपर 1 और पेपर 2 को इंटीग्रेट करके कैसे पढ़ें. तो कल 3 बजे आपकी ये क्लास रहेगी where Tulika ma'am is also going to be there and we'll be discussing some of these questions that get asked कि कैसे आपने पढ़ना है, कैसे क्वेश्चंस साथ में सॉल्व करने हैं. तो ये सारे के सारे क्वेश्चंस आपके डिस्कस होंगे. तो कल 3 बजे आपकी क्लास है. 8:30 बजे ऑफ कोर्स आपकी जो क्लास है उसमें हम सेटायर को कवर करेंगे. तो कल का स्केड्यूल आप प्लीज एक बार लिख लीजिएगा. कल 3 बजे आप लोगों की क्लास वाईटी पर है. 3 बजे आपकी क्लास वाईटी पर है. फिर 8:30 आप लोगों की क्लास आपकी ऐप पे ऊपर है, ऐप के ऊपर जहां पर हम लोग सेटायर को अच्छी तरीके से कवर करेंगे और 18th सेंचुरी को पूरा का पूरा कवर कर लिया जाएगा. 10 o'clock मैंने आपको बता ही दिया है. हम लोग 1990s से रिलेटेड जो इंपॉर्टेंट फिक्शन के 10 इंपॉर्टेंट नॉवेल्स हैं और साथ ही साथ में क्विक क्विज में आपको अफ्रीकन लिटरेचर का देने वाली हूँ. और 10:30 p.m. पर आपकी पोस्ट कॉलोनियल लिटरेचर से रिलेटेड मास्टर क्लास होगी जिसमें क्या टॉपिक रहेगा वो मैं आपको आज की मास्टर क्लास में बता दूंगी. तो कल का डे थोड़ा सा हेक्टिक रहेगा. प्लीज आप क्लास के स्केड्यूल को अच्छी तरीके से लिख लीजिएगा. फाइन. थैंक्स नायना, शिल्पा, रश्मि, शबनम. जल्दी से 5 मिनट्स का ब्रेक लेके मास्टर क्लास के लिए जल्दी से ज्वाइन कीजिएगा. फाइन. थैंक्स एवरीवन फॉर ज्वाइनिंग. टेक गुड केयर ऑफ योरसेल्व्स. अगर कोई और डाउट हो तो प्लीज डू कीप अस पोस्टेड. ओके, आई कैच अप विद ऑल ऑफ यू टुमारो. फाइन. थैंक्स एवरीवन.